I was reborn on the day my sister and I were choosing our husbands. That's when I realized I could hear other people's thoughts. I heard my sister's voice in my head. This time, I have to grab the best husband before she does. Then she anxiously pulled away the gentle husband I had married in my past life, leaving me with the abusive man who had beaten her. I laughed to myself. Did she really think the man I had married before was a good person? Once again, I found myself on the day of the husband selection. Sitting across from us at the dinner table were two men of similar age. One was Logan Carter, the eldest son of the Carter family, cold and distant by nature. The other was Ethan Carter, the youngest son. Though technically illegitimate, he was mild-mannered and gentle. This time I have to grab the best husband first, my sister's voice echoed in my ears. I glanced at her, but she hadn't spoken. She was simply staring straight at Ethan. Then her thought came again, just wait. I'm going to take you away this time. That was when I realized. Not only had I been reborn, but I could hear people's thoughts. And judging from what my sister had just said, she had been reborn too. Otherwise, there was no way she would be thinking like this. Sure enough, the next second she walked over and sat beside Ethan, looking at him shyly. "Hi, my name is Sophia Evans. I like you," she said coyly. At that moment my father suddenly spoke. "Susan, since your sister has already chosen Ethan Carter, then you will marry Logan Carter." As soon as he said that, my sister's eyes filled with satisfaction. In her mind she sneered, "This time you can take the beatings for me." In my past life Sophia had married Logan. He was a successful businessman, always busy with work, and known for being emotionally distant. My sister had tried countless times to get close to him, but each time she was beaten and thrown out of his room. Eventually, because she never bore a child, Mrs. Carter declared her infertile and kicked her out of the family. Meanwhile, I had married Ethan. Even though he held little power in the Carter family, he still provided me with food and comfort. He took me shopping, out for meals, and pampered me endlessly. Everyone in the Carter household knew how much he doted on me. Later, when Logan suddenly died of poisoning, Ethan inherited the Carter family's business, and my status in the household soared overnight. My sister, consumed with jealousy, deliberately drove her car into me while I was out shopping, killing us both. "All right, Dad," I replied with a smile. "Actually, I like Logan too." Then I calmly walked over and sat beside Logan Carter. I had to admit, this man had an incredibly strong presence. The moment I sat down, I felt a chilling aura wrap around me, making me hesitant to speak. No wonder my sister had suffered so terribly in the past life. I tried to listen to his thoughts, but I heard nothing. However, when Ethan turned to look at Sophia with a smile, I suddenly heard his voice in my head. What a beautiful little doll. A shiver ran down my spine. On instinct, I grabbed Logan's hand. Despite his cold personality, his hands were surprisingly warm. Feeling my touch, he turned to glance at me. I quickly let go, and only then did he remain silent. Even though Logan seemed intimidating, I still felt that staying with him was far better than being with Ethan, that venomous snake. This time I was determined to change my tragic fate. I would make my own money, become independent, and rely on no one. Our wedding was held together. In my past life we had also married on the same day. Back then, Logan hadn't even shown up to the ceremony, while Ethan had arrived early in the morning, making everyone say he was the more considerate husband. And just as expected, history repeated itself. Ethan, dressed in a white suit, hurried over and carried Sophia away. As they passed by me, she cast me a smug look. "Susan, where's Logan? Didn't he come to pick you up?" she sneered. I simply smiled. "No need for you to worry, Sophia. Just take care of yourself." Her face darkened at my words, clearly choked up. Go ahead and laugh now. Let's see if you'll still be laughing when you're the one getting beaten. After saying that, in his mind, Ethan Carter took Sophia downstairs with him. But it was still too early to say who would have the last laugh. Just like in my past life, Logan Carter did not attend the wedding, leaving both my sister and me to endure endless gossip and judgmental stares. Sophia was even more delighted, unable to contain her excitement as she clung to Ethan and blurted out, "I love you." Then he kissed her. After the kiss, she turned to stare at me, her lips still wet with saliva. I knew she was waiting to see me humiliated. But I wasn't stupid. Unlike my past self who had stormed out in anger, handing everyone in the Carter family the perfect scandal to gossip about, I wouldn't make the same mistake. I remembered how in my last life, everyone had criticized Sophia for being immature and unfit to be the Carter family's eldest daughter-in-law. As a result, after the wedding, Mrs. Carter never showed her any kindness, making her life in the Carter household miserable. With a poised smile, I picked up the microphone and addressed the guests below the stage. Logan had an important business deal to negotiate today, so I'll be making the rounds in his place for the wedding toast. I hope you all won't mind. The moment I said that, the murmuring among the guests ceased. Even Mrs. Carter, seated at the main table, gave me a look of newfound appreciation. The Carter family was a prestigious household, highly concerned with maintaining its reputation. In moments like these, a daughter-in-law needed to show grace and composure. Sophia also noticed Mrs. Carter's reaction, and her eyes flashed with irritation. "Disgusting," she sneered in her thoughts. Just wait. When it's time for the tea ceremony, I'll make sure you embarrass yourself. Honestly, I found this ability to hear others' thoughts incredibly useful. It was like having a cheat code for life. Everything became so much easier. When the tea ceremony began, I calmly lifted my gown and walked toward Mrs. Carter. Sophia kept her eyes locked on me, mentally counting down. 1, 2, 3. At the very last second, I sidestepped just in time to avoid whatever she had planned. Instead, she lost her balance and fell hard to the floor, spilling tea all over herself. "Oh no, are you all right?" Ethan hurriedly reached out to help her up. But in his mind I heard him scoff. What an idiot. The entire room turned to look in our direction. Mrs. Carter's face darkened with displeasure. "So reckless, do you even look like a proper daughter-in-law?" "I'm sorry, Mother, it wasn't on purpose," Sophia stammered, trying to cover up her embarrassment. But the unwillingness in her eyes was obvious. If I were her, I would have just accepted the loss and focused on living quietly. But she wasn't willing to let me have peace, so I certainly wouldn't go easy on her. With Sophia making a fool of herself, the wedding ended in an awkward rush. From start to finish, Mrs. Carter never once gave her a kind look. But when she turned to me, there was nothing but approval in her gaze. She even took my hand and said warmly, "Susan, tonight I'll make sure Logan comes home to keep you company. He should make it up to you." And sure enough, that night Logan actually came back. The moment he walked through the door, he loosened his tie. His face filled with exhaustion. I quickly stepped forward to take his jacket. "Logan, you must be tired today," I said gently. He merely glanced at me and said nothing. In my past life, the servants had gossiped about how on our wedding night, Logan never came home. My sister had waited alone in the bridal chamber, becoming the laughing stock of the entire household. When she went to Mrs. Carter to complain, she was scolded instead, told that she lacked the ability to win over a man's heart. While Logan was in the shower, I prepared his bed, made some tea, and tidied up the couch for myself to sleep on. When he came out and saw the scene, a flicker of surprise flashed through his eyes. I quickly explained, "You sleep on the bed. I'll take the couch." He narrowed his eyes slightly, studying me. "Susan, are you trying to play hard to get?" Draped in only a bathrobe, his chest was slightly exposed, beads of water still clinging to his skin. I had to admit his physique was incredible. I quickly averted my gaze. We have no real feelings for each other. Sharing a bed would be awkward for both of us. If possible, I'd like to propose a partnership. Logan raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" After all, our marriage is just a business arrangement. Plenty of couples in our situation live separate lives and only put on a show for appearances. I married you simply to ensure a stable and comfortable life. I don't expect love." Hearing my words, he suddenly smirked. "You're smart. That works for me too. I was just an ordinary person. I didn't have the skills or confidence to control a man's heart." In the Carter family, Logan's attitude toward me would largely depend on how Mrs. Carter viewed me. I had no desire to end up like Sophia in our past life, targeted and isolated by everyone. That would bring me no benefits. Besides, in my past life, Logan had been physically abusive toward Sophia. I had no intention of provoking him and ending up in the same situation. Peaceful coexistence was the best option this time. My only goal was to make money, start my own business, and rise to success on my own terms. To maintain appearances, I had Logan post a picture of us holding hands on social media, captioned, "Happy Newlyweds." This way, everyone would believe our marriage was fine. As I scrolled through his profile, I noticed how empty it was. Aside from this new post, there was nothing else. Someone like him must have a dull life. That night, Logan really did take the bed while I slept on the couch. He had no concept of chivalry whatsoever. But I should be grateful. At least he didn't force me into anything. The next morning, I was woken up by the sound of Logan working out. He was doing push-ups while listening to music. I had heard that emotionally cold men were usually frail, but his 8-pack abs and toned calf muscles were proof of his incredible strength, far superior to Ethan's physique. "Stop staring. I'm not interested in you," Logan suddenly said, getting up from the floor. He put on his shirt and added, "Get ready. Let's go eat breakfast." I knew what he was really saying. He wanted people to see us together to make it look like we were in love. Honestly, he seemed reasonable. I still couldn't understand why he had abused Sophia in our past life. After getting dressed, I followed him out for breakfast, ready to begin this new chapter of my life. The next morning, Logan and I left the house together. The moment we stepped outside, I saw Sophia and Ethan walking toward us, hand in hand. Sophia was wearing a strapless dress, her collarbone and shoulders marked with visible hickeys, marks she seemed proud of as she leaned closer to Ethan, flashing a smug look my way. I could hear her thoughts echo in my mind. She must have been beaten last night and is trying to hide it. Then came a mocking inner voice. "Susan, how was your wedding night?" she asked aloud, her tone dripping with mockery. That day, I had chosen an elegant long-sleeved cheapao, something classy and modest. Sophia must have forgotten that Mrs. Carter strongly disapproved of revealing outfits and excessive makeup. But I wasn't about to remind her. Instead, I simply smiled and replied, "Sophia, based on seniority in the Carter family, you should be addressing me as sister-in-law, not sister." Her face darkened immediately. She clenched her teeth, clearly unwilling to accept that reality. "Even Logan never calls you that. What right do you have to demand it from me?" she snapped. Then she turned to Logan, expecting him to back her up. "Logan, say something," she demanded. I could feel the air around Logan grow colder. In his mind, Ethan cursed under his breath. "Damn idiot, just wait until tonight. I'll teach you a lesson." He tugged Sophia's hand slightly, silently signaling her to stop talking, but she was completely oblivious to the danger she'd just put herself in. Logan finally spoke, his voice calm yet sharp. "Tell me, Ethan, what is the first rule of the Carter family?" Ethan instantly lowered his head. "I'm sorry, Logan. I'll handle it right away." The next second, smack. Ethan slapped Sophia hard across the face. "Show proper respect," he ordered. "Greet your brother and sister-in-law properly." Sophia's face turned red from the slap, but she knew better than to defy Logan. With gritted teeth, she muttered, "Good morning, brother, good morning, sister-in-law." As soon as she said it, Ethan dragged her away. I remembered then. The first rule of the Carter family was that no one was allowed to disrespect the heir or his wife. Disrespectful behavior resulted in 30 lashes. And Logan was the rightful heir. In my past life, I had memorized all the Carter family rules to survive. Back then, after Sophia married Logan, she constantly tried to bully me. But because I knew this rule, I never dared to show her any disrespect. I had assumed Sophia also remembered the family rules, but clearly she hadn't. That was why she thought she could still get away with bullying me in this life. By the time we arrived at the dining hall, Sophia had already received her punishment. Her face was pale, and she kept her head down, too afraid to sit. Under the table, I caught a glimpse of Ethan pricking her hand with a needle repeatedly while thinking, "You worthless woman, it's all your fault that I had to endure this humiliation." He pressed harder each time. In my past life, it wasn't long after I married Ethan that he started abusing me. He never allowed me to speak about it, and I had no way to escape. I suffered immensely because of him, which was exactly why, in this life, I would rather be with Logan than ever end up with Ethan again. Sophia, I thought to myself, this time you chose your own husband. Don't blame me. Mrs. Carter arrived, and we all stood to greet her. She leaned on her cane and was about to let us take our seats when her gaze froze on Sophia. She hadn't changed out of her strapless dress. Sensing Mrs. Carter's disapproval, Sophia forced a smile and tried to deflect. "Mom, it was all Ethan's doing. He said he liked how I looked when carrying his child." The moment those words left her mouth, Mrs. Carter's face darkened with fury. She raised her cane and struck Sophia on the back. "Shameless! What you do as a couple is your own business, but you are not to speak of such things in public, and don't ever dress so indecently again. You're humiliating the family." In my past life, even a maid had been dismissed just for wearing shorts. That was why I had always been careful. I only managed to survive in the Carter household because I lived cautiously. But Sophia had always assumed that my good life was because I had married the right man. She completely misunderstood. Did she really think a good life had to depend on someone else? "I'm sorry, Mom, I didn't know," Sophia whimpered, sweat beading on her forehead from both pain and fear. Ethan quickly chimed in, pretending to take responsibility. "Mom, it's my fault. I forgot to remind her." Although his words sounded remorseful, I could hear his true thoughts. "Serves you right, watching you get beaten is the best entertainment." Disgusting. What a psychopath. Since she was a newlywed daughter-in-law, Mrs. Carter didn't reprimand her further. She took her seat and instructed us all to eat. Logan remained silent the entire time, but during the meal, he casually placed some food onto my plate. I could feel Sophia's seething gaze on me, as if she wanted to tear me apart. Smiling even more brightly, I said, "Thank you, honey." Mrs. Carter looked pleased. Turning to me, she said, "Susan, after lunch, you should go to the company with Logan and start learning. As the eldest daughter-in-law of the Carter family, you need to understand the business." I had expected this. In my past life, she had said the exact same thing to Sophia at the dining table, but Sophia had responded, "I don't want to learn. I can just rely on Logan for the rest of my life." She had willingly pushed away a golden opportunity. So when she was eventually kicked out of the Carter family, she had nothing left. "Of course, Mom," I replied obediently. Logan took me to the company. The entire ride there, I tried to listen to his thoughts, but heard nothing. Well, that made sense. A man like him wouldn't be swayed by emotions. He had nothing to worry about. When we arrived, Logan brought me to his office. "Wait here," he said flatly before walking out. Through the glass door, I saw him heading toward the conference room in a hurry. Curious, I followed inside. He was negotiating with a British businessman about selling a skincare formula he had developed. Fortunately, I had done my research before coming here. This deal was a critical one for the Carter family. I listened carefully to the British man's thoughts. "This formula is only worth a few $100. This time, I'll make sure to rip the Carter family off." I looked at him in surprise. His expression was calm and composed, giving nothing away. No one would suspect the scheming going on in his mind. He confidently quoted a price of $3 million. Logan hesitated, not responding immediately. Sensing an opportunity, the man pressed further. Mr. Carter, I assure you this product will bring you far more value than 3 million. Just as Logan was about to agree, I pushed the door open and walked in. Hello, I greeted in English. Then I picked up the bottle of skincare serum he had developed and examined it closely. I'm a woman. I understand skincare products better than most. Your formula only contains whitening ingredients. It doesn't have any anti-aging or wrinkle-reducing properties. And as an engineer, you should know that surface-level whitening effects are negligible at best. So tell me, why exactly is this formula worth 3 million? The British man was stunned. Logan leaned back, watching me with interest but not interrupting. I took that as a silent invitation to continue. However, I added, since this is a foreign product and you've done quite a bit of promotion on social media, many people are already familiar with and trust your brand. So I'll offer you this amount. I raised a single finger. 1 million. The man looked shocked. No, no, no. I interrupted before he could argue. For a formula barely worth a few hundred, 10,000 is already my final offer. The room fell into silence. The British man stood up abruptly, clearly angry. In broken Chinese he demanded, Miss, who are you to name such a price? How am I supposed to do business like this? Fine, I won't sell it. It's not like you must have it. With that he turned to leave. But Logan's voice cut through the tension, calm yet commanding. I'll give you 1 million. Sign the contract now. And I expect you to apologize to my wife. Jack froze mid-step. His eyes lit up with excitement as he immediately turned around. I was completely baffled by Logan's decision and tried to stop him, but he shook his head slightly, signaling me to stay quiet. I had no choice but to hold back. Mr. Carter, you're a real businessman, Jack said with a pleased smile. He turned to me. Benny, I apologize, Mrs. Carter. I didn't realize you were Mr. Carter's wife. After that, Logan took Jack to sign the contract. When it was all over, I still couldn't understand. That formula was only worth a few $100. Why had he paid 1 million? Logan took a sip of coffee and spoke in an unhurried tone. You have a good business instinct, but you don't fully understand the market yet. Jack's formula itself is worthless. I knew that from the start. What I wanted was the brand he built. Although it's not well known yet, he's already established a strong reputation among young women. With just a little more promotion, I can easily make back that $1 million. Suddenly it all clicked. That's why Jack had been so confident. He knew his brand had value. Coming here was definitely the right move. I was learning things I never would have in my past life. But I was still curious. How did you know the formula was only worth a few hundred? Asked. Logan fixed his sharp gaze on me. I forced an awkward smile. I guessed he didn't question me further, but I took this opportunity to make a request. I want to run one of your branch companies. In my past life, Ethan had no status in the Carter family and couldn't give me anything. I had always wanted to start my own business, to be my own boss. Now I had the chance. I had Logan post a picture of us holding hands on social media, captioned, Happy Newlyweds. This way, everyone would believe our marriage was fine. As I scrolled through his profile, I noticed how empty it was. Aside from this new post, there was nothing else. Someone like him must have lived a dull life. That night, Logan really did take the bed while I slept on the couch. He had no concept of chivalry whatsoever, but I should be grateful. At least he didn't force me into anything. The next morning, I was woken up by the sound of Logan working out, doing push-ups while listening to music. I had heard that emotionally cold men were usually frail, but his 8-pack abs and toned calf muscles were proof of his incredible strength, far superior to Ethan's physique. Stop staring. I'm not interested in you, Logan suddenly said, getting up from the floor. He put on his shirt and added, Get ready. Let's go eat breakfast. I knew what he was really saying. He wanted people to see us together to make it look like we were in love. Honestly, he seemed reasonable. I still couldn't understand why he had abused Sophia in our past life. After getting dressed, we headed to the dining hall. The moment we arrived, Sophia was already there, her face pale, eyes red. She looked like she hadn't slept at all. Ethan sat beside her, smiling sweetly as he fed her a piece of fruit. But I could hear his thoughts clearly now. She's going to break soon, just like the last time. I glanced at Logan. His expression remained unreadable, but I could feel the tension between him and Ethan, like two wolves silently circling each other. Mrs. Carter entered, and the room fell silent. She took one look at Sophia and frowned. "You look terrible. Are you ill?" Sophia opened her mouth to respond, but Ethan cut in smoothly. "She's just tired from our activities. Nothing serious." I saw the flicker of pain in Sophia's eyes. She caught my gaze, and for the first time I saw something unexpected: regret. That night, after dinner, I returned to my room alone. I was about to turn off the lights when I heard a soft knock on the door. It was Logan. He leaned against the frame, arms crossed. "You're different," he said simply. I raised an eyebrow. Different from what? From her. I knew who he meant: Sophia. In this timeline, she had married him first, abused and humiliated until the day she was cast out. And now, here I was. The same face, the same name, but with a mind full of secrets and a heart hardened by death and rebirth. "I'm not trying to replace anyone," I said. "I'm just trying to survive." Logan studied me for a long moment. Then, without another word, he turned and walked away. But before he disappeared down the hallway, he stopped. "You can have the East Wing office," he said. "Run the skincare branch. If you prove yourself, I'll give you more." I smiled softly. That was all I needed. As I closed the door behind me, I felt it. The shift in fate. This time I wouldn't be a pawn. Not in my sister's game. Not in Ethan's twisted revenge. And not in Logan's cold empire.